Coach Michael Adams joins us today on Leadership Synergized. Good day, everyone. I'm Kevin Smith, and Coach Adams, my good friend, thank you so much for taking the time out of your summer and joining us today to share what's been a lifetime full of positive experiences.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I don't know you as well as I would like, but I can tell you from our times that we've got to talk, I've really enjoyed you and your energy and your perspective. And so I'm excited when you asked, it's a no-brainer to say yes to something like this.
I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, sir. Coach Adams, you talk about a diverse background, a lifetime of coaching at the high school level, teaching in the schools, the public school systems, the private school systems, but also serving our country, and great leadership skill set, highly revered and respected, and just recently retired, Coach Michael Adams. Talk a little bit about that process, Coach.
Yeah, I'm 62 now, which I certainly don't feel that. It's just like sometimes you just say, how the heck did I get to this place I'm at? But I am 62, and financially, it just made sense. We complain about teachers pay a lot, but they do have a really good retirement program if you make some good decisions early in your career. It was beneficial for Donna and I to go ahead and let me walk out the door, but it was tough. I got to tell you, everyone was just talking about how exciting it was going to be and looking forward to it. But it was real emotional. When you've done something as long as I've done this, and you fall in love with the place and you love the kids, it's just a big change. But I'm just grateful for all the years that I've got to do this. A lot of people I know, they don't particularly like their jobs. And I felt like I was getting paid for something I truly loved, and I got to go play, and I got paid for it. So I was really privileged. But it was time. I think things happen, and you're just ready to move on to the next thing. And I'm excited about what's next.
Coach, you had stepped away from coaching a few years ago and continued as an educator during the past 2 or 3 years. Which decision did you find more difficult, stepping away from coaching or stepping away as an educator overall here this spring?
We always say if you are a good coach, you're good teachers. And I believe that. I think great coaches are great teachers. So education is first. But I got to be honest, in my heart, it was more difficult to give up the coaching. And that was just such a big part of who I was and what I did all these years. I loved the game. Watching the ball go through the hoop and through the net just did something for me. And from an early age, I wanted to be a part of that. So I chose that path. And I just love the coaching aspect of what I did. I certainly love teaching. My classes, I mostly taught world history, health, and PE. I did some leadership classes. I was department head there for a while. So I love that aspect, but coaching was my passion. There's no doubt, the basketball side of it. And it was tough. My parents were getting older, and I just felt they lived in Hanover. And it was just really, there were times I felt I needed to be there and I couldn't. In my last year of coaching, I just really struggled with not being able to my dad had an important surgery. I couldn't be there because I had a game, and things just happened. And Donna and I always talk at the end of every year as we've gotten older, and we just felt like it was time. It was hard to put the coaching behind me, but I've never had any regrets. I certainly miss it. Whenever you have a love and passion for something, you're going to miss. But I know in my heart we did the right thing. And so, yeah, it was the right thing to do. But coaching was tough to walk away from.
Especially after the successful years and that you were able to experience. And I don't necessarily mean the one-loss record, while it was tremendous and postseason success. All of those relationships, I'm sure you had an opportunity to develop on and off the court.
Yeah, I think I reflect back to my high school experience. I had a great high school coach. And I remember one of the last meetings he had with us seniors, was no matter where you go in life, have a large servant towel. You got to serve others. No matter what community you're in, don't be afraid to give back. And I've never forgotten that. I've tried to convey that message to every senior that I've had the privilege to coach. And Don and I, we tell them, whether you like it or not, you're part of the Adams family now. If you could play for this guy for 4 years, you're part of the Adams family. And when you do this for as long as I've done it, that family's pretty large right now. So Don and I, through the years, we've been to a lot of weddings, a lot of get-togethers, and that's what you said it. It's really about the relationship that you make with your coaches, your managers, your players, and there's just everyone involved. I was really lucky. We've had some great ones, not only talented, but just great people. it's really neat to watch them progress. I think of just one, I could talk about my players, but Andy Kissel was a kid that played for me. And I can remember Andy coming in camp, just a little bitty kid, and growing up. We ended up being my point guard and played for me. And then he came back and got into education. So he taught at Wright. So he was then my assistant coach, and he's now our department head of math at Wrights. And he's literally one of my best friends. So to see that transformation from a little kid all the way through, that's just kind of special, that something we coaches get to experience, and that's pretty cool.
You mentioned Wrights and Wrights High School. Coach Adams spent a number of years at Evansville Wrights High School, located in Evansville, Indiana, the very southwestern tip of the state of Indiana. You mentioned your parents live in Hanover. That's closer to the Madison, Indiana, Cincinnati, Ohio region. Roughly, what, about 2.5 hours from Evansville, give or take, in there?
Yeah, it's funny. It's about 2 hours and 28 minutes. And it doesn't matter if you're in a hurry or not in a hurry. It just seems like that's about what it takes to get there. But yeah, about 2.5 hours away.
And it's a beautiful community. Hanover College is located there, a Division III school that has had a lot of athletic success, but also highly regarded from the academic side. And Coach, the state of Indiana really has a lot of hidden treasures when it comes to college level academics as well as athletics.
Yeah, in Hanover, that's in my backyard. I have some great childhood memories of going over, and had a friend, he's actually was my parents' doctor, Dr. Totten. He was a classmate of mine, and his father was a professor at Hanover College, and he would get us in. He had a key to the gym, and he'd get us into the gym. And of course, John Collier, the Hall of Famer, he was a friend of my father's, and I went to his camps. And of course, his son, Steve Collier, was Mr. Basketball in 19. And I was a young kid that got to watch all that. That was probably part of what inspired me, but just a great community to grow up in. And certainly Hanover College has always been a part of our community. But yeah, just a great place. And Coach Miller, he actually recruited my son. Now, Drew ended up going to Marion University, but that was a fun experience to go there and visit as a parent. And of course, congratulations to him and his son. His son was made our all-star team. Scottsburg won the state championship, and his son made the Indiana All-Stars. So I know for that family, that's a big thing. But yeah, Hanover College is just a neat place.
Coach, just to back up a little bit for our audience, the individuals who may be watching or listening that don't know the Michael Adams story, take just a few moments and talk about Michael Adams, the father, the husband, the son, the educator, the coach, and the everything else.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a lot to unwrap. I'm like, as I said, I'm pretty old. I've had some great experiences. I'll start with my family. I always, when you have to talk about things, I always give Donna a lot of love, and deservingly so. I think anyone that has been in the coaching family, it is a lot of commitment. And it's not just about the basketball coach. It's all involved. And certainly Donna has, I tell her she should write a book, because she has just been through everything with me, and she knows when to pick me up. She knows when to get on me. And we've been through a lot together in this coaching journey, and it's her and I. In fact, this morning, she's helped me set up the computer so I can do this video. I probably would have messed it up if she wasn't here to help. She's just been wonderful, just the love of my life. And I'm glad that we've got to experience together, and we've had a lot of fun. But the best thing we did was we brought 3 children into the world. Our oldest son, Andrew, lives in Westfield. He's at Chatham Hills, and we're pretty proud of Drew. He's a doctor. He's an anesthesiologist and works at Riverview Hospital in Noblesville, and doing really well. So we're really proud of Drew. And I got to experience something really cool. He played for me. So to get to coach your son is just an add-on. And he was around the game growing up, and to get a play for dad, it was awesome. And we had a great experience. I've had buddies that have coached their sons, and sometimes that didn't go so well, but Drew and I got along great, and we had a great experience. And our only rule was you could get mad at your coach sometimes, but you always got to love your dad. And we jokingly said that, but there's a lot of truth in that. But we got along great, and he was a good player. And like I said, he went on to play at Marion. Just really proud of him. And then my next child, Leah, she's a dental hygienist. She's up in Zionsville. And you talk about an athlete. She was probably the athlete of our family. She ended up actually her senior year winning the athlete of the year here at her school and in Evansville. And just a great kid, hard worker, did really well in school, and she loves her job as a dental hygienist. And then we had a gap. We had a 10-year gap between Leah and Emma. So our third child, Emma, is a freshman at IUPUI. In fact, she went to Poland. She won a scholarship to study abroad. So she's been in Poland, and now she's actually in Italy. We had an exchange student from Italy last year. So she was able to go over, and Leah actually flew over to meet up, and they're in Italy. I think they're going to Rome today. So they're having the time of their
Wow.
life getting to experience that. So that's my family. The rest of my family. Oh yeah, I can't forget to mention my grandson Teddy. You talk about a different stage. There's nothing like having a grandchild. Teddy makes everyone feel so loved. He's just a little over 2, and he loves his Pat Paul, so that makes me feel pretty good. In my side of the family, I have 5 sisters. We lost my sister Pam. She died of pancreatic cancer, which was a hard thing to go through as a family, but I grew up with 5 sisters, and I was lucky in that they were so supportive of my coaching career. I can remember when I first got into it, my sister Julie, before I was married to Donna, she would have to come, and I'd always wear suits at games, and she'd have to help me with what matched and what didn't match, so I didn't look like an idiot on the sidelines. Not that anybody cared, but they've always been really involved in my coaching career, and that's made it more special, as well as my parents. And then once I got married to Donna, Don and Jeannie LaGrange, they were huge fans. So it was definitely a family affair. But yeah, that's my family. I grew up in, as you said, Hanover, Indiana, played for Max Perry at Southwestern High School. And then it's funny, so many people just assumed I went to Hanover College, but I actually went to Indiana Central and was really blessed to play for a guy that was an idol of mine growing up. And that guy's name was Billy Keller. Coach Keller was Indiana Mr. Basketball in '65, won a state championship with Washington, then went on to play at Purdue, was an All-American at Purdue. The last time Purdue got beaten in a national championship game was Coach Keller's senior year. UCLA got him. But Billy will be quick to tell you their center got hurt, so they had no answers for Lou Alcindor. But anyway, got to play for Coach Keller, and we became friends. I had the stint in the military. We kept in touch. And then when I got out of the military, I actually worked for Coach Keller, and we're still friends. We still talk, and just a great person. So he was a great mentor for me. And then I had the privilege to work under Bill Green, who is another Indiana legend. And I always laugh. I think, how could a guy, little farm boy from Hanover, Indiana, get so lucky to work for guys like Billy Keller and Bill Green? And then to add on top of that, Larry Humes was our assistant. Larry Humes was a Mr. Basketball in '62, I believe, from Madison, and he knew my father, which was ironic. There was no connection, but we just had that point in our coaching where we came together and we found out we had a lot in common. And Larry was a dear friend. To be surrounded by guys that had success in the game would be an understatement. I was just taking it all in. I was trying to be a sponge and learn as much as I could. And they were great with the game of basketball, but more important, they were all just great people. And I learned a long time ago, this is more than just about the X's and O's. It's about relationships and building bonds and wanting people to play for each other and go through it together. So it was just a great opportunity for me to learn the game and be around great people. I coached 4 years at Indiana Central. I mentioned my first job was at Westfield. And then I got the head coaching job at Washington Catholic, was there 3 years, had a lot of success. I walked into a gold mine, replaced Kenny Schultz. He actually took the job at Jasper. And Kenny, I always give him credit because he did such an outstanding job with those kids. They understood what help side defense was. They knew how to block out. They knew how to stay in front of the ball. They'd take a charge, and they had really good offensive skills. So that was a great opportunity for me to get a start as a head coach. And then I took on the job at Wrights and been there 29 years as the head coach and 31 years as teacher. So I could go on, but I'm trying to be polite. That's it in a nutshell.
Wow, what a great background. And Coach, as you're referencing some of the people that have played a part in your life, and I'm sure your development, and I'm knowing you, that you would certainly give them credit You talk about Billy Keller, you talk about Bill Green. Billy Keller, certainly a high school phenom. I think he played in the ABA, the old
He,
ABA as well, right? With the
he did,
Pacers,
and
et
I failed to
cetera.
mention that he played for the Pacers for 8 seasons, and they won. The ABA was a really, if you like to study basketball history, really interesting time. But they won three world championships, and he's has all those rings. It's just when I first played for him, we had a party at his house, and he had a place in his house called the Pacer Room. And it was just like, oh, you just walk in and you're just like, oh my gosh, I could have stayed in there all day just looking at his stuff. But yeah, he had great success with the Pacers. And I remember the years I played for him, it was a lot of fun. After practice, a lot of times he'd call us in, and the last thing he'd say, hey guys, the Pacers are in town. Does anybody want to go to the Pacers game? And he would leave tickets for us at will call. And it was just so much fun to go down to the old Market Square Arena and take in a Pacer game on Coach Keller's will call advantages. But yeah, it was just, he's just a great guy. And it was just awesome to get to play for him.
Yeah, the American Basketball Association had the red, white, and blue basketball, had stars, Dr. J in the ABA. The games between the Pacers and the old Colonels in Louisville at Freedom Hall with
Yeah.
Gilmore and Dan Issel and some of their players, just fantastic and a lot of fun. 3-point line was in the ABA. They really were a forerunner to a lot of things that we know in the game today.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you, there's nothing more thrilling to be on a scouting trip or a recruiting trip and to get Coach telling old stories about his Pacer days. They're the best, about Coach Leonard and just some of the stuff he went through. It's just really great to be a part of that.
Coach, something comes to mind I'm just curious about. So you had Billy Keller, you had Bill Green, won multiple state championships, coached at what is Indiana Central is now University of Indianapolis in Indy in that regard. You mentioned Larry Humes. Talk a bit, because I know sometimes individuals find it challenging to, while they're learning from such stars of the game, if you will, individuals with rich legacy, such as Billy Keller, Bill Green, to really identify themselves, taking that self-awareness and maybe not try to copy and be someone that their strengths aren't set for them to be. Talk about how you were successful in that regard.
I think the first thing is, I think you got to be yourself when you're around people like that. You just got to be who you are. And I was lucky with some of the people prior to that. I think some of the things Coach Perry taught me, my parents, the values my parents taught me. And I think one of the reasons that I won them over, so to speak, is when I worked for them, and they would tell you this, they never once beat me to the gym. They never had to turn a light on. They never had to sweep the floor. They never had to and they were impressed by that. Now, that was just who I was. I wanted to impress them, and I wanted to show them I wasn't afraid of work and putting in the time. And so, yeah, and those values come from my father, I think, just not afraid to show up and go to work, roll up the sleeves. And I think that really made an impact on our relationship. But you're right. I think when you get into this coaching profession, and I would even tell all the people that worked under me, I would tell them, hey, you're going to find a lot of things maybe you like that we do, that I do, but also you're going to find things you don't agree with, and that's okay. I think it's got to be your own personality when you become the head coach and you start doing things your way. So I would argue that if you've seen up close my program and how I run it, you're going to see a little bit of Billy Keller, a little bit of Bill Green, a little bit of Larry Humes, a little bit of Coach Perry, a little bit of my mom and dad, a little bit of my wife. It's my assistants. I learned a long time ago, you really got to surround yourself with really quality people. And I've learned so much from my assistants, Joe Patton, Jim Brinkmeyer. I mentioned Andy Kissel, kid that played for me. Andy was good. He'd say, he got me to understand, Coach Adams, at the end of the game, they don't want to hear you talk. Okay, you got to shorten that stuff up, man. He goes, I hear you, but he goes, they don't get it the next day in practice. And that really helped me. So you're constantly, I think, have to have the attitude, you got to learn from everybody. But yeah, when you throw those names out and people think, oh, you work for them. It was really, I was just myself and I worked hard, and I can say those guys were all my friends. Bill Green was a scratch golfer. He got me into golfing. What a great guy just to be out on a golf course with. And I could tell story after story about Coach Humes, Coach Keller, and just was really fortunate to get to be under those guys and learn. But you can't, again, still got to be yourself. like going to a clinic. Clinics have been big, and that's one of the things with the IBCA we're really big with is clinics are important, but you can't go to a clinic and write down everything and think you're going to do everything you learn at a clinic.
Mm.
It's really got to fit you. It's got to fit your kids. It's got to fit what you're trying to do. And it would be counterproductive to do that. And I think the same thing, the analogy to coaching, you've got to take a little bit from everybody and then put your own touch, your own personality to it.
I'd like to pick up next week on a bit about coaching and the ties with leadership and some of the challenges maybe that you've seen change around the profession in your time. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for sharing your stories and for sharing the learnings you've had in your career.
I'm honored to get to be on here with you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you all for watching Coach Adams and I, and we'll be back next week and pick up where we left off and get into more of Coach Adams's leadership. And maybe there's a few lessons learned that he's open to and willing to share with us. Thank you for joining us on Leadership Synergized. Have a great day. Remember, you are loved.